The Call of the Wild. Part 4.
It was all very sudden. Buck saw Spitz run out from the crowd with his tongue out of his mouth, laughing. Then he saw Francois with an axe, and 2 or 3 other men with clubs jump in among the dogs. 2 minutes later, the last of the dogs was chased away. But Curly lay dead in the snow, her body torn almost to pieces. Curly's death often came back to Buck in his dreams. He understood that once a dog was down on the ground, he was dead. He also remembered Spitz laughing, and from that moment, he hated him. Then Buck had another surprise. Francois put a harness on him. Buck had seen harnesses on horses, and now he was made to work like a horse, pulling Francois on a sledge into the forest and returning with wood for the fire. Buck worked with Spitz and Dave. The 2 other dogs had worked in a harness before, and Buck learnt by watching them. He also learnt to stop and turn when Francois shouted.
"Those 3 are very good dogs,"
Francois told Perrault.
"That Buck pulls very well, and he's learning quickly."
Perrault had important letters and official papers to take to Dawson City. So that afternoon, he bought 2 more dogs, 2 brothers called Billy and Joe. Billy was very friendly, but Joe was the opposite. In the evening, Perrault bought 1 more dog, an old dog with 1 eye. His name was Solex, which means the angry one. Like Dave, he made no friends. All he wanted was to be alone. That night, Buck discovered another problem. Where was he going to sleep? Francois and Perrault were in their tent, but when he went in, they shouted angrily and threw things at him. Outside it was very cold and windy. He lay down in the snow, but he was too cold to sleep. He walked around the tents, trying to find the other dogs. But, to his surprise, they had disappeared. He walked around Perrault's tent, very, very cold, wondering what to do. Suddenly, the snow under his feet fell in, and he felt something move. He jumped back, waiting for the attack, but heard only a friendly bark. There, in a warm hole under the snow, was Billy. So that was what you had to do. Buck chose a place, dug himself a hole, and in a minute he was warm and asleep. He slept well, although his dreams were bad. When he woke up, at first he did not know where he was. It had snowed in the night, and the snow now lay thick and heavy above him. Suddenly, he was afraid. The fear of a wild animal when it is caught and cannot escape. Growling, he threw himself at the snow, and a moment later, he had jumped upwards into the daylight. He saw the tents and remembered everything, from the time he had gone for a walk with Manuel to the moment he had dug the hole the night before.
What did I say?
Shouted Francois to Perrault, when he saw Buck come up out of the snow.
That Buck learns quickly.
Perrault smiled slowly. He was carrying important papers, and he needed good dogs. He was very pleased to have Buck. They bought 3 more dogs that morning, and a quarter of an hour later, all 9 dogs were in harness and on their way up the Daya Canyon. Buck was not sorry to be moving, and although it was hard work, he almost enjoyed it. He was also surprised to see that Dave and Solex no longer looked bored and miserable. Pulling in a harness was their job, and they were happy to do it.
To be continued.